When Emma Johnson moved into her new apartment, the only piece of furniture she had was an old, faded couch that she'd inherited from her grandmother. It wasn't anything special, one of those sturdy, slightly outdated pieces that had survived decades of family gatherings. But for Emma, it was more than just a couch. It was her anchor, the one familiar thing in an otherwise brand new life. She had just accepted a new job in the city, far from the quiet suburban neighborhood where she grew up. Everything about her life felt uncertain, her work, her future, and especially her heart. At 28, she had experienced her share of disappointments. A long-term relationship that ended badly had left her cautious, unwilling to let anyone in too deeply. The apartment itself was modest. The walls were bare, the kitchen small, and the bedroom hardly large enough for more than her bed and dresser. But the living room, with that couch sitting right in the center, felt like hers. On her first night there, Emma curled up on it with a blanket and a cup of tea, whispering to herself, "This is a new start." She didn't know that the couch would soon become the setting for a story she never imagined, one that would change her life forever. The first time she met Daniel Miller, it wasn't exactly love at first sight. He was her upstairs neighbor, the kind of man who carried himself with easy confidence but also seemed approachable. He introduced himself when she was struggling to carry groceries from her car. With sandy brown hair, kind hazel eyes, and a smile that could soften even the toughest day, Daniel struck her as the kind of man who probably had someone waiting at home for him. "Need a hand with those?" he asked, already taking a bag from her without hesitation.
She tried to protest.
"Oh, no, you don't have to." But he simply smiled. "I insist. Besides, I was headed this way." That small act of kindness was the start of something neither of them could have predicted. Over the next few weeks, Emma and Daniel ran into each other often. Sometimes in the hallway, sometimes in the lobby, sometimes at the nearby coffee shop where Emma would pick up her morning latte before work. Every encounter felt easy, natural, as if they had known each other much longer than a few weeks. One Friday evening, as Emma sat on her couch with a bowl of popcorn and a movie queued up on her laptop, there was a knock at her door. When she opened it, there was Daniel, holding a plate of freshly baked cookies. "Too many for one person," he said with a grin. "Thought I'd share with my favorite neighbor." She laughed, letting him in. "You're lucky I have a couch. Otherwise, you'd be sitting on the floor." And so, Daniel sat with her, side by side on that old couch, eating cookies and watching a movie. It became the first of many evenings like that. The couch became their meeting place. It was where they talked about everything from silly topics like which pizza topping was superior to serious conversations about dreams, regrets, and what they wanted out of life. Emma found herself opening up to him in ways she hadn't with anyone else in years. Daniel, too, seemed to trust her with his truths. He told her about losing his father when he was young, about the pressure of taking care of his mom and younger sister, about how he worked long hours as a paramedic but never regretted choosing that path. One night, as they sat close together with the glow of the television flickering across their faces, Emma realized her heart was racing, not from the movie, but from Daniel's presence. His arm brushed her slightly, and for the first time in a long while, she didn't pull back. Still, Emma fought her feelings. She had been hurt before, and the thought of risking that kind of pain again terrified her. She told herself it was just friendship, that the couch was simply a symbol of comfort, not romance. But deep down, she knew she was lying to herself. Daniel never pushed her. He never rushed her. Instead, he was steady, patient, always showing up in small, meaningful ways. When she came home from a long, stressful day, he'd knock on her door with takeout. When her car wouldn't start one morning, he drove her to work without complaint. When she doubted herself, he reminded her of her strength. One evening, after weeks of quiet companionship, Emma finally asked the question that had been on her mind. "Daniel, why do you always come here? Don't you have better things to do?" He looked at her with that same steady kindness. "Because this is where I want to be." Her heart caught in her throat. The turning point came on a rainy Saturday. Emma had been feeling under the weather, curled up under a blanket on the couch when Daniel showed up with soup and medicine. He sat with her, refusing to leave until she was comfortable. At one point, she fell asleep against a shoulder. When she woke up hours later, he was still there, watching over her as if nothing else in the world mattered. That was when Emma knew this wasn't just about the couch or the convenience of being neighbors. This was about two people who had found something real, something lasting. Their relationship grew slowly, gently. The couch became their place of laughter, of late-night confessions, of quiet comfort when words weren't necessary. But as weeks turned into months, Emma realized Daniel had become more than just a neighbor, more than a friend. He had become her safe place, her unexpected home. The first time Daniel kissed her, it wasn't dramatic. There was no sweeping music, no perfect moment scripted out of a movie. It was simple. They were sitting together, as always, when Emma laughed at something he said. He looked at her with such warmth that she stopped laughing, her breath catching. And then he leaned in, softly pressing his lips to hers. It was gentle, tender, but it carried all the unspoken feelings they had shared over weeks of quiet companionship. Emma pulled back slightly, her eyes wide. "Daniel," he smiled. "I've wanted to do that for a long time." Her heart raced, but this time, she didn't fight it. She let herself feel. For the first time in years, she didn't let fear win. The couch had been just the beginning, but what they built together went far beyond it. They started taking walks through the city, exploring new restaurants, sharing inside jokes that only they understood. He introduced her to his family, and she saw the way he cared for them with devotion. She realized then that the qualities she admired most in him, his kindness, his steadiness, his quiet strength, were exactly what she needed. Months later, when Emma thought back to that first lonely night on her couch, she couldn't help but smile. What had started as just a piece of furniture had become the backdrop of a love story she never saw coming. Because sometimes love doesn't begin with fireworks or grand gestures. Sometimes it begins with something as simple as sharing cookies on a couch. And for Emma, that couch had been the beginning of everything she never knew she needed.